Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to JJ's PC Build. You know it is JJ right here once again. If it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe. And also, too, if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to the community. And also to my veteran subscribers. Much love to you for all the things that you do and watching the videos from beginning to end. And I hope everybody is, so that way we can get more watch time hours, so we can get up to the point where, YouTube will do something and help us out here. And also too, make sure you put a positive thumbs up on it. It would be appreciated. But today, this is an overview. I'm going to give you a little overview of what's going on right now. For the simple fact, I'm going to go roll back into Second Life because there's some things I wanted to cover. I just want to give another outlook on the settings for the graphics. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be going through the settings of the graphics. Some people get confused on what goes on with the graphics, because it's OpenGL. And it's not DirectX 12 or DirectX 11 or any DirectX. So this runs off of a separate wave. It's like if you go to Furmark and use Furmark, that's OpenGL. Oh, and make sure you get your drink and snacks with you, by the way. So it's a little bit different. It's something that, long time ago, Second Life used to have a lot of players. But now it seems like they moved over to other games and stuff like that, and they kind of continued their journey. But we're still on Second Life here, so that's the real deal. But I want the people that are watching for Second Life, I just want you to get another grasp. If you're new to Second Life, get another grasp on how to set up your graphics, because that's going to be your best importance in the world right now. Okay. Getting your graphics to run correctly on either your laptop or your PC, your desktop PC, or if you decided if you got it connected to Xbox or PlayStation, however you got it connected, and also too, I did hear they are working on for the telephones for Android, from what I'm hearing, Android and Apple phones, which I'm thinking they're still working on it, but they're getting there. But to get to where, the full version of being able to move your avatar and everything else on your phone and they're all working on that. So that's still a work in progress from what I hear. But today's video is right about setting up your graphics and, and what's the best to use and what's best not to use. I'll just step by step show you what, you can turn on and turn off and everything else. Depends on how you want to use it. That's the whole thing. Okay, there's one thing I wanted to add so you understand before we go on, is that this is not a tutorial. I'm not doing a tutorial. I'm just showing you how I do things, how I'm doing things on my screen for my game. So it's not a tutorial. I just want to break that in really quick. So let's get back to it. So let's go ahead and dive right in and go down to the action screen. So let's dive down to the action screen. There. And now you can see what's going on. So, yes, this is my avatar. Yes, it's sitting at 22 FPS, but I got more for you. I'm going to get my big head out of the screen. And that way you can see me better. So here we go. Now, what I'm attempting to do is basically, you're going to see it sit at 22 FPS because I just clicked off the screen. Now, when I click on the screen, it'll go up to 528, 530 or so FPS. As you can see, let me move this up out of the way a little bit. Let me try to get this down to where you can see it a little bit better. And try to move this over down where you can see it a little bit better. So there we go. Okay. So now you can see that, the GPU, the RTX 4070, is running at 91 degrees. It's back down to 22 because remember, when you click off of the screen, it drops the FPS down to the minimal. And then the latency comes back up. But once you click on the screen, the latency drops and the FPS come up about. So that's how it usually works. So usually if you keep your latency down below 2 to 3 milliseconds, you'll be fine. Okay, right now I boosted up the graphics card, the 4070, so it's running at 97 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm only utilizing 45% of it. Now I'm only utilizing 45%. And it's the megahertz on that, it's running at 3030. And the power draw is about at 33% at 60 watts. And the processor voltage is only running at 1 volt, about 1 volt, 1.1 volts. So looking at the memory, it's only running at 1410 megabytes on the VRAM. It's only utilizing 344 megabytes of it, but it has a total clock of 11,202 megahertz. CPU wise, it's running at 122, 123 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm only probably utilizing up to the max, so probably about 20%, but it's sitting at 4,650 megahertz, which is the max of the processor. You probably could push it higher, but I'm not pushing it past the recommended what AMD has on it. And it's only running at maximum, might go up to 47 watts, but that's pretty much it. But the RAM utilization, after, you got to remember, the system RAM utilization gives you a total of what's being used. A total. Now you got to remember, Windows is running this. If you're running OBS, it's on there too. And Secondlife, all combined into one. So basically, less than 6,000 megabytes, which would be 6 gigs, around 6 gigs. That's not too bad when your system's running 64 gigs. So using 6 of 64, you still got about 50 some gigs left to play with. And the FPS is about staying in the 500s. Now remember, this is OpenGL. This is not DirectX 12. This is totally different. This DirectX 12 has different parameters. You have 12.2, you have 12.1, you have DirectX 12, you have DirectX 11, you have DirectX 10, 9, and so on. OpenGL is 4.6. Some of them go up to, most I've seen was 4.6. Hopefully one day they'll bring it up to 4.7 or higher. They'll go up to the next stage. But the lowest I've seen was 4.4. So right now that's staying at a continuous over 500 FPS. Just staying stationary. And yes, I want you all to understand something, and understand it very well. Okay, if you're in a skybox, okay, you got to remember, if you got multiple skybox on your land, what's going to happen is it's going to lower the amount of FPS the more textures you add onto the land. Now, your visual wise, it's where your camera is pointed, which is going to raise and lower your FPS. Now, if I were to take and go in a circle, watch the FPS change. See, the FPS changes as you go into a circle of finding the highest amount of FPS that you can, whatever direction your camera is in. So you keep going around to find the highest FPS, and then, you know, you're set. So pretty much, you know, it's depending on where your camera is pointed at because of the textures and everything else. Now, everything that's on the land, that kind of puts a little bit of strain on the land, and it kind of lowers your FPS too, but not as much as where your camera is pointed. Now, if I were to go up in the air, or better yet, let me do this right. If I were to go up in the air, then, you know, I gain FPS because at this point, there's really no latency that's really going to hinder my visuals. So, you know, that's what you got to look at too. Oh, let me turn this off. Clicked the wrong button. I do apologize about that. Come back down. Okay, so as you can see, going up in the air, this is basically how you're testing. You know, I turned down this somewhat. It was pushing out 800 to up to 800 FPS. I know for a fact that that's not going to be the total accuracy I want to use. Okay. So I brought it down a little bit. I toned down the processor. You know, like I said, I undervolted the processor, but the graphics card is up to its max, close to 90%, about 85% of its max. It's not to its max. I didn't push it that hard to its max. I put it at about 85%, left a little bit of headroom, you know, for fluctuation. So that way I can see how it fluctuates on the land. Now, a lot of people were telling me that when you go into the preferences, okay, now this is a little bit of a trick. Yes, it did lower the FPS when you open up a new window on your screen, what happened is it will lower your FPS because it's adding something to the visual. So now if I were to go and turn on enable VSync and I were to turn on enable stream VBO, you know, you turn on one by one to see what's going to change. Turn on enable lossy compression. You know, I'm leaving the anisotropic filtering off. Go over to rendering, render glow. See the difference? When you turn the glow on and off, you can see the difference between the two. So you know what that does. Okay, now you can show the scene as wireframe if you really want to show the scene as a wireframe, or you can turn that off. Now you can enable face light, which I don't think it does much, so I don't enable face light. Render attached particles, you can turn it off or turn it on. To me, it doesn't have much effect. So to me, it doesn't have much effect at all. So this is how you find your happy spot when it comes to, what you want to run or what you don't want to run. I'll leave that on for now. I turned off show avatars that haven't finished loading. Reason is if they load, if they're in partial load, your FPS is going to drop. Okay. But if what the computer will do, if it's off, they have to render first and then they'll pop in. But if they haven't rendered first, then they won't pop in until they've rendered. But you can turn it on if you want. But to me, I think leaving it off is the best thing in the world right now. Okay, now you can go back to your hardware settings. Now here, viewer texture memory buffer. I put this one, left that one on. I turned off enable dynamic texture memory. Okay, I don't need that. I mean, I could, but I mean, what has it really done? Not much. So it doesn't really give me much there. So I leave it there at 2048. That's 2 gigs of VRAM. Okay, that's 2 gigs of VRAM buffer. So the anti-analyzing, I leave it off. And anisotropic filtering, I leave off. Is because you turn those two on, what's going to happen, you'll get, if you're looking for finer smoothing. Now, look at my avatar, right? Look at my avatar right now. I don't need to look at any more smoother than what you're seeing here. It looks smooth enough for me because I see all the text, all the lines and everything. Because looking at it, I see all the details. So I really don't need those on for better smoothing. To me, I think it's smooth enough. But if you turn it on, you're going to lose FPS. And when you go into clubs and everything else, it's going to give you more of a hard time because now it's got to take more time to load. And then it's going to make it laggy. And that's what you want to eliminate, is being lagged. So I leave mine off. I leave this off here at the top. And I leave this the way it is, and I leave this disabled. Okay. Now, go back to the general. Now, the way you can do this is this. Okay. Now, if you want transparent water, okay, you can turn on transparent water. Okay, your FPS will drop. Just to let you know, watching the FPS go from 530 dropping down, you can put the bumpy map and shiny on. You can put local light on. You can put atmospheric shaders on. Okay. Now, you can put advanced lighting model on. And you can put ambient inclusion on. Look at your FPS now. Drops it down to 300 and something. But I guarantee having all this on, and if you go into stores or clubs or anything else, with the way they have the textures built onto their stores, it's going to cause you more lag and it's going to cause you to freeze. Okay, you want to eliminate the freezing. So basically, I turn it off. I turn this off here, this off, because I don't need it. I turn this off, because look, the brightness comes up. See, atmospheric shaders is only shading and making it look darker. Okay, so I don't need shading. Okay, I don't need the local lights. If I leave the local lights on, it's brighter. You can see the difference between the two. You can leave the local lights on if you want to make it look brighter on your screen or not. Okay, bumpy map. I really don't need because I don't worry about that. Transparent water, it really doesn't matter to me because why do I really need transparent water? If the water looks good just the way it is, and I noticed that the water looks fine just with it off as well as on, so it really doesn't matter. Now, if you want quality versus speed performance, I would suggest not to go to low, not to go to the first line. Watch my cursor here. It's over on the preferences right here. Quality and speed performance. You can set it to mid. Now this is mid right here. Now let's go up one mark more. Okay, now it enables everything. So now you got to disable everything, that you just did. Because once you move this, it starts moving this. So now, because now you got to turn this down, you got to turn particles off. And if you don't want other people's complexity, lowering your FPS, then turn it all the way down to 20,000. Okay, leave everything the same, everything else the same. Okay, just leave local lights on. Now go to hardware settings, make sure it's the same. Go to rendering, make sure it's the same, and go back to general. Now that you see that at 392, almost 400 FPS with just those things on. Okay, now let's go up to high. Okay, now turn this all back off again. Okay, turn all that down. Okay, so now make sure everything's, see now anti-analyzing is on. I click disable, and it won't change until you restart anyway, so just make sure you know that. And then go back through again. Now I'm on high. Now this is the RTX 4070 now. I can take this all the way up. All the way up to the ultra quality. Turn all this nonsense off. Turn this down. Okay. Now, turn this to disabled. Okay. Now, ultra quality. Ultra quality. Do you see a difference in ultra quality compared to mid-level quality? I mean, look at it very carefully. Look at this. Look at this. No lag whatsoever. No lag whatsoever. Okay. No lag whatsoever. I mean, I can't beat this. This is excellent. I mean, on ultra quality, you look at the arms now. Look at right here at the arms. Let me get it a little bit closer so you can see. So you can see the details. Look at the details. See all his muscular lines and everything else? See all the details of his muscular lines and everything else? Look at that. I mean, you cannot beat that whatsoever. Look at that. Look at the details in this right here. I mean, do you see, but now do you see a point to where, in the hardware settings, you don't need all this on. You can have it on, but it's going to run it a lot slower. So that means you're going to get less FPS and everything else. So the best settings I found to be really good are, I don't need this on, I don't need that on. Okay. I don't need anything on other than the texture memory buffer at 2048. And this will give you an idea of what it means, the definition. It says amount of memory to allocate for textures. Defaults to video card memory up to 512 megabytes on a 32-bit system and 2048 megabytes on a 64-bit system, depending on available dedicated video memory of the video card. Reducing this may improve performance, but may also make textures blurry. Okay, so now I put that out to max. That right there is the best of the best. Now the clothing he wears is not too bad. Because actually it's just fine. Just fine. As you can see. So his posturing and everything else looks great. Okay, you can't get it any better than this. I mean, you could if you wanted to spend a lot more money on your avatar, but the settings you see right here and right now with the rendering, these are all that you need. Hardware settings, this is all that you need. In general, you only need local lights. I mean, and you turn draw distance down, and turning draw distance down to 32 meters. What it does is it draws less further away and it draws more up front. So you see more draw power up front than you do all the way in the distance. This causes latency lag. So you don't want latency lag. Now, if somebody's using particles in their club, this max particle count, I turn it down to 0 because I don't want to see additional particles that's going to lower my FPS. Unless it's like they're doing something spectacular, then I'll turn it on to like the minimal, so that way I see up close the particles. But, anything else, you turn the particle count off. Maximum complexity, that depends on if you want to look at another avatar at their complexity. You can turn it up to all the way up to no limit and all the way down to 20,000. Some avatars require 200,000 to 300,000 on the complexity. Other avatars, they use up 300,000, which will lower your FPS a little bit. It will play a big deal on that. So I can turn mine down to, let's say, 138,000. That's perfect. I mean, 138, you go, let's leave it at 151,000. Okay, now max number of non-imposter avatars, 16. Okay, that means avatars that are controlled by other people that are in the game on other computers, not the ones that are AI driven. Okay, if they're AI driven, those would be imposters. Okay, but if they're the actual ones that log in on their computer, the actual people that log in on their computer to their avatar, those are non-imposters. So I left mine at 16. So that means 16 out of everybody in that club will render to where I can see them. Well, they all will render, but the ones up close to me render in detail somewhat. Post-processing quality stays at high. Objects and sculpts LOD everything pretty much stays the same as you see it. The level of detail, everything stays the same as you see it right here. Okay, now just up here is your little bit of change. Okay, water reflections is everything. Point lighting stays at full detail. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing else more that, you have to do with the graphics settings. Okay, your graphics settings are pretty much that. So, and yes, I'm coming to you live from my avatar today. So do enjoy. Well, do subscribe anyway. And if you do enjoy my videos, put a positive thumbs up on it. One of these days, I'll get him to put his thumb up. I haven't put it on to his hand gestures just yet. I leave that HUD off of him because he doesn't really need it. I've only got one HUD that's on him, so that way, he doesn't lag that bad. But if you're using an avatar with more than 3 HUDs and stuff, and you wonder why that, there's a lot of lag and everything else, well, it's the amount of HUDs that you're wearing as well. That does play a factor into it too. So try to minimize your HUDs, and, level of detail for him, I do enjoy. Even sitting at this right now, it's not too bad. It's not too shabby. Okay, but if you don't want to put a strain on your processor and your graphics card, down here, watch my arrow key. Down here on the taskbar, just left click on the taskbar and watch. Now your FPS right here turned to 22%, but your latency rose to like between 40 and 50 milliseconds. Your latency will rise because you're not in use, but it'll lower once you start in use. So do keep that in mind if your works, so you can still, use it the way you want to use it. But like I said, Secondlife is not a hard game. Okay, if you got the right, how can I say this? If you got the right graphics card, the right motherboard, the right processor, and everything else, it will run smooth for you. For me, I enjoy it. I enjoy the game. So I just wanted to bring this really quick to y'all, so that way you can see what's going on. I know it's a bit about 30 minutes. So if you enjoyed the video, do subscribe. And also, too, if this is your first time here, subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds. And also, too, my veteran subscribers, much love to you as always for watching the videos from beginning to end and trying to get everybody to tell everybody to come down here and subscribe. So I just wanted to state something before I sign off on this, is that 1, the processor's running below level. Okay. 2, I lifted up the graphics card a little bit, pushing it up to its max. But the thing is this. In actuality, it's running basically nice and level. I know you guys don't see the 800 FPS, but understand this. I did change some of the preferences, and I did change a little bit of the settings for the processor and the graphics. So basically, I was leaning it towards the textures to get the textures to come up better, losing a little bit of FPS. Okay, understand, if you're going to take and run all high end or mid level, it can balance itself out. So, yes, 300 to 400 FPS in an open skybox is fine with me. And yes, I have had it up to 800 FPS before. But I did cut things down to where it's using less power and everything else. As you can see, the processor was only using 40 to 45 watts. Now, this processor can go up to 108 watts. So that tells you I'm not utilizing everything about the processor. So just wanted to make that in there really quick. But you all have a nice day. And we got more videos to come, so stick around for that. And we definitely will see you on the next one.